So tonight I'm going to do an improv cooking thing that I'm going to call the Flannel Chef. I might do it on a regular basis. We'll just kind of see how it goes. I was, when I started out tonight, thinking about going ahead and showing Ursius how to make the vegetarian double downs I mentioned a few weeks ago, but I realized that I have some mushrooms that they will go bad pretty soon if I don't fix them. So I was like, let me go ahead and make something different. I talked about making turnip cakes last week. I make squash cakes, which are similar and related. So this is a cooking thing, and this is an improv thing. So when I fix food, sometimes I like to add ingredients and take ingredients out. Like with the squash cakes, I've never made these before. I'm just kind of whipping the recipe up out of my head based on what I know about how to make turnip cakes and some other things like that, where you take a vegetable and some other ingredients and you throw in some rice flour, and then what you do to make turnip cakes is first you take the dough basically and you steam it, and then you fry it, and that's how it's served. And so we're going to do something similar to squash cakes, and we'll see how they turn out. So I've already got a lot of this stuff pre-made. I got 3 squashes. This time of year, a squash is going to be about the size of your fist if you don't have really small hands. And what you're going to do is take the squash and you're going to grate it up. So I've got a grater here, and you're just going to grate it finely. And you want to do this as opposed to chopping, probably, because what it does is it creates kind of a fibrous texture, and that allows the rice flour to make it stick together and make kind of a textured cake. I am also going to use mushrooms. And you probably are not going to be able to shred the mushrooms, so instead I just slice them finely. And I'm going to use about 4 ounces, so about half a carton of mushrooms for this. And so I just kind of chop them finely into thin slivers. And again, this is to give it texture. And so like I said, 4 ounces of mushrooms, about 3 squash, which I would estimate is probably going to be about a pound of squash, maybe not quite a pound of squash. And another thing that I'm going to add to this is some garlic. I've got a third of this. And I'll show you how I put garlic in. Of course, you can get the garlic that's already in a jar, finely diced up, and that's perfectly fine. I like to do it myself. So garlic, you break it apart, and so you have all these little cloves inside. Just kind of break off the outer shell. So outer shell is thick, hard, dry, very brittle, and on the inside you'll get to a layer that's soft and kind of supple. And you can chop these off, but I just use my fingernails at the ends. I use a garlic press. So this is something you can get for like $4 or $5 at the store, Target, whatever. Put your garlic in there, and you can just press it right on out. And it'll make a nice pulp. You can use your knife, or in my case your finger, kind of scrape this off. Okay, so like I said, we're going to add half a cup of water, and we're going to get this nice and sauteed till we get to like a juicy, pulpy state. I would say you're probably going to do it for at least 20 minutes. Oh yeah, and like I said, olive oil. You want to add just a dollop to this. Now, one thing I would do if I had it, let's add more than a dollop, add plenty, because we are sauteing it. One thing that I like to do is add beer in addition to or instead of water, but I do not have beer. All I have is these mixed mojitos, and I don't think mojito and squash would go together. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to saute it up now. I have the stovetop set to a medium. You can probably get away with medium-high, and you just want to make sure that you're constantly stirring it So we have the mixture. It's got squash, it's got the mushrooms, it's got the garlic. Stir it up a little bit, add a little bit of that olive oil, and let that get heated up. We're going to do half a cup of water. And I'm not a precise cook. Now, you can add salt to this, and you probably will want to add salt to this. It is certainly optional. Depends on what your nutrition needs are. I'm actually going to use capers to add, a little bit of saltiness and a little bit of extra punch. So I'm going to use the garlic press. Drain these. The press actually has a convenient little drain. Press these out. Everything. If a little bit of caper pulp gets into your mix, that's okay. It's not going to hurt anything. You're going to want to get this nice and pulpy for your batter. And actually, I think I'm going to add more than half a cup to this, because I remember when I made turnip cakes, it was quite a bit juicier than this. And I don't think I've made them quite juicy enough. They end up being a little bit firm. So I'm going to add another half cup. Like I said, this is an improv thing, so I just kind of use what I know and experiment. This looks about right. Now, while this is cooking up, I'm going to talk a little bit about the rest of the process. So, I have not experimented with making turnip cakes with a type of flour other than white rice flour. This is what you can get at Asian stores, and you can probably get at other places that have a reasonable variety. We have a chain here called Lowe's Foods. They had this in the cooking aisle in kind of a specialty flour nook, and I imagine you can probably get it at some of the fancier Harris Teeters as well. Maybe Super Target. I haven't tried to check there yet. And so rice flour is definitely different than wheat flour. Like I said, you can certainly try other types of flour. If you do decide to use beer in your mixture rather than water, you want to be sure to add it early on so that you get all the alcohol cooked out, because you want the beer flavor. The alcohol itself could actually work against the flour. And this is on medium, let's just say for medium heat, so I'm going to cut down to medium. And this will cook for a while, I would say a good 20 minutes. Be sure to constantly stir it. I'm using a spatula because, like I said, I chopped up the mushrooms by hand, and so they're slices, they're not always completely separated, and the action of the spatula will help further break things apart that might not be completely separated. Now, while that's going, we're going to talk about the steamer. So you can get like a real steamer. I don't have one yet. Alternatively, if you have a wide pot, a deep pot, put water in the base of it. You can get these things for $2 to $5 at Target that you can put inside a large pot. And so what happens is this plastic won't melt, and the water below it steams. You'll want to have a lid on top of here. And after we finish cooking this mixture, we're going to add in the flour. We'll kind of work it by hand after this is obviously cooled down and you want to burn your hands. And we will take it and form it into these little saucers. If you have a real steamer and the steamer is large enough, I think what I would recommend doing is, instead of using these little things, to use a 9-inch round pan. It can be metal. I wouldn't use metal on this because I don't want it to get burnt or melt or anything like that. And so you just take your mixture, put it in here. Because this thing's kind of flimsy, you can probably only do 2 of these at a time. You're going to steam them in sets for 30 minutes, and you can either take them out and immediately fry them, or you can put them in the refrigerator and fry them later. And I have some in the freezer actually that I put away, and sometime later I'm going to try to take those out and see how well they do after having been frozen and thawed.